You may have heard in the news about Iran's axis of resistance a lot after October 7, 2023. But what exactly is this referring to? Well, Iran has been providing support to militias all throughout the Middle East as a means of mounting an existential threat to Israel and imposing costs on the US for supporting Israel. The armed militias under Iranian patronage include Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and various armed groups in Iraq and Syria. Over the past few months, however, this axis of resistance collapsed in the face of multiple Israeli military successes. The Houthis in Yemen are the only Iranian proxies still capable or willing to pose a threat to the Israelis, evidenced by the recent Houthi missile attacks on Israel. In this video, we're going to take a look at the pro-Iranian axis of resistance and its origins. The Shia theocratic government that rose to power in Iran in 1979 was anti-Zionist and anti-Western in diplomatic alignment. The Quds Force, a wing of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was responsible for establishing connections with external armed groups and exporting the Islamic Revolution. Quds Force came under the command of Qasem Soleimani in 1998. Soleimani was known to be charismatic and popular among the troops he commanded. Under Soleimani, the IRGC forged ties with Shia militias all throughout the Middle East. In 1982, Hezbollah, meaning Party of God in Arabic, was established in Lebanon by the IRGC. Hezbollah's aim was to fight the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in June of that year. Hezbollah shares the Shia beliefs of the Iranians and is more militarily powerful than the Lebanese government. In 2006, Israel would invade Lebanon again as a result of Hezbollah's actions. This second Lebanon war concluded in a strategic failure for Israel, but Hezbollah is only one part of this pro-Tehran network. Making plenty of headlines within this past year is the Yemeni militant force Ansar Allah, more commonly referred to as the Houthis. The Houthi movement was formed under the leadership of Zaidi Shiite leader Hussein al-Houthi in 1992. In 2004, the movement launched an insurgency against the Yemeni government. In March 2015, a multinational coalition led by Saudi Arabia intervened militarily in Yemen after the Houthis ousted President Abdurabu Mansur Hadi. In response to a botched Houthi missile attack on King Khalid International Airport in November 2017, Saudi Arabia blockaded Yemen. The Saudi blockade significantly contributed to what the UN calls the world's worst humanitarian crisis. After October 7, 2023, the Houthis stepped up their attacks on foreign shipping in the Red Sea. In response, the US and UK launched a bombing campaign against the Houthis known as Operation Prosperity Guardian. Qasem Soleimani, who was known as Iran's shadow commander, masterminded Iranian operations in Syria and Iraq. American officials believe that Soleimani provided Iraqi insurgents with weapons to use against US forces in Iraq. Soleimani and his subordinates were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American and coalition troops and the wounding of thousands more. After the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq, Shiite groups with ties to Tehran formed militias made up of tens of thousands of fighters. An umbrella group called Islamic Resistance in Iraq began attacking American personnel stationed in Iraq and Syria after October 7th. This group killed 3 US soldiers in Jordan in a drone strike in January 2024. When IS launched their onslaught against Iraq's government in 2014, Shiite armed formations fighting under the umbrella of the Popular Mobilization Forces played a key role in combating IS. Meanwhile, in Syria, Tehran aided the recently ousted Assad government against rebel forces. Hezbollah began operating in Syria in 2012. In addition, Israel was conducting airstrikes against Iranian and Hezbollah targets in Syria. Iran and Syria enjoyed warm relations with each other for decades. The Assad regime said that Iranian personnel were in Syria to serve in advisory roles at the behest of Damascus. Bashar al-Assad's regime was considered part of Tehran's axis of resistance, though it did not play any direct role in the October 7th attacks and their aftermath. Iran also aided the Zainabiyun Brigade, a Pakistani Shiite militant group. Shiite militant factions like the Fatemiyun Brigade in Afghanistan have likewise been provided with support from Iran. So now that we have identified some of the key players and factions involved in Iran's axis of resistance, let's look at how everything began to unravel for Tehran. It was in 2020 when things started going south for Iran. On January 3rd, an American drone strike killed Qasem Soleimani at Baghdad International Airport in Iraq. However, after the October 7th attacks on Israel, everything really started going south for the Iranians. Firstly, Hamas, an Iranian proxy group, has been significantly weakened as a military force by the IDF in the aftermath of 10/7. Hamas leaders Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh were assassinated by the Israelis as well. Other terror groups, such as Hezbollah, also paid dearly for operating against Israel. Beginning in October 2023, Hezbollah launched rockets at Israel from Lebanon. In retaliation, Israel carried out airstrikes against Hezbollah targets in Lebanese territory. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah escalated when the IDF launched a ground invasion of Lebanon in late September 2024. The IDF announced that it was conducting quote-unquote limited, localized, and targeted ground raids to destroy Hezbollah's terrorist infrastructure. Prior to the IDF's invasion, Hezbollah had already taken a beating at the hands of the Mossad. In mid-September 2024, thousands of Hezbollah-operated pagers and walkie-talkies detonated, putting more than 1,500 fighters out of action. Less than 2 weeks later, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an Israeli airstrike. On November 27, 2024, Hezbollah and Israel agreed to a ceasefire. Over the following 60 days, Israel is to withdraw its troops from southern Lebanon and the Lebanese army will take up the vacated positions. Hezbollah, meanwhile, must pull back its forces from the area between the Blue Line and the Litani River. Another critical reversal of fortune for Iran was the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad's dictatorship in December 2024. In a manner very reminiscent of Afghanistan in 2021 or Iraq in 2014, rebel forces led by the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or HTS group made large gains against government troops before seizing Damascus on December 8th. 13 years of civil war and over 5 decades of Assad rule in the country came to an end. Bashar al-Assad himself was granted asylum by the Russian Federation, who had maintained a major military presence in Syria since 2015. Israel has expanded its buffer zones on Syrian territory after Assad's ousting. HTS leader Abu Muhammad al-Julani said that Syria would not be used as a base for attacks on Israel. He likewise called for an end to all foreign intervention in Syria. At the time of recording, Israeli commandos launched a raid on an Iranian missile facility in Syria. In Iraq, militias aligned with Tehran recently announced that they would halt actions against Israel. The leader of Iraq's al-Nujaba movement said that his men would not intervene in Syria and were ceasing all actions against the IDF. It is worth noting that al-Nujaba is a US-designated terrorist group. However, this does not mean that the Israelis and the Iraqis are going to start singing Kumbaya. These armed groups still maintain their anti-Israel stances. Additionally, the Houthi threat against Israel is still a serious issue. Houthi missiles have been launched toward Israel from Yemen over the course of about a week and a half at the time of recording. A missile hit Tel Aviv on December 21st. The Israeli Air Force carried out attacks against Sana'a International Airport on December 26th. The ports of Hodeidah, Salif, and Ras Kanatib, as well as the power stations at Hejaz and Ras Kanatib, were also targeted by the IAF. In slightly over a year, Tehran lost most of its allies across the region. Hamas's destructive capacity has been greatly degraded since 10/7. Hezbollah has also had its bones broken by the Israelis. The Iranian drone and missile attacks on Israel also failed to cause any meaningful damage. Lastly, the Iran-friendly Assad government in Syria has been toppled. As it stands now, the Iranian Hydra is even more isolated and has had most of its tentacles chopped off. There is a case to be made that the real reversal of fortune came in the form of Soleimani's death in January 2020. A comparable historical analogy to Soleimani's killing would be the death of Swedish King Gustavus Adolphus in the Battle of Lutzen in 1632 during the 30 Years' War. The Swedes won the battle, but Gustavus Adolphus's death was a critical blow to the Protestant cause. Tehran's policy of arming and funding Shiite proxy groups all across the Middle East in an attempt to threaten Israel and intimidate the US has culminated in an epic fail. One of the major reasons behind this was the death of the man who first assembled and drove the machine, Qasem Soleimani, commander of the IRGC's Quds Force for over 20 years. The IDF has also thrown a serious beating on Iran and its clients around the region. What do you guys think? What will Iran do in the face of these strategic reversals? What will the conflict between Israel and the Houthis end up looking like? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.